Welcome. Today we present a debate of the death penalty in which we will be joined by Nadia Pamela Medina Huica, María Fernanda Cholchablé, Alicia Alejandra Bancoli, Jennifer Alonso Dominguez, and me, Alicia Anae Chambargues, students from Jose Vasconcelos High School. Starting your disposition, this is a controversial issue and there are several positions on the matter. Maria Fernanda Cholchablé, thank you for joining us today. Tell us about your position on the death penalty since we know that is in the favor. Why?
I think that whoever threatens to destroy life or destroy life should be destroyed. For example, the murderer of kidnapper should be sentenced to death. In general, those who are not worthy of being born and are not because they commit crimes deserve to die immediately. The most important thing is to liquidate, destroy, annihilate, kill those who hate, trained life.
Jennifer Alonso Dominguez, we understand that your position is against the death penalty. Why? What do you think of the position of the student mafia?
First, we have to think about that model of a state we want to build. When we speak of the penalty, we speak of the state and the according of the constitution. We have a state at the service of the internal development on the person at a state in the Article 1 and 2 of our constitution. So I state that versus the development of the person cannot destroy it. That is in the first place. Second, I do not believe that there are beings more worthy than others of worthy than others. Human dignity is specifically to do the fact of being human beings. We can decide how deserves to have beings born or not. I really, it seems to my that we are in the world and that beings of the world involved in many situations. Even when complain serious acts are committed, we know that there are legal consequences strong. The application of the penalty, but one penalty can never be applied in the sentences of destroy the person for whom this state claims to guarantee a life.
You can speak, Alicia.
Thanks. I think what Marfer said was misinterpreted by Jennifer. Precise for the state of Yucatan to fulfill its function of preserving life and protecting it. It is necessary to enable those who persist attempt against life. Then it's not question of saying will show born or will is not. What Maffer he said is that those who have committed serious crimes do not deserve to have been born and must be liquidated. I don't mean to say that he's going to be born or he wants or respects life deserved to continue living and who doesn't respect life deserve to die. Precis so than our society may be civilized, precisely so then the state of Yucatan fulfills its function of protecting life. So then those who respect right life pacifically, and those who do not respect the right die immediately, and I don't believe that all human beings are worth living of not. Only those who respect life.
Nadia, we will let you answer.
Well, I think that in reality state is not exactly there to destroy the person, even in the conditions in which it was like that. So it would mean that if in Yucatan, nearly 200,000 deaths were committed during the internal armed conflict, we would have to kill 200,000 people who caused this um, consequences. I believe that what they did penalty actually means in these cases in absolutely unequal application because it would be impossible that given an equitable principle to kill one who kills another, we would have to kill everyone.
Margaret, the political constitution of the Republic presents some contradictions. In some articles, it talks about the respect for life. And then if we compare it with Yucatan, some treaties on human rights have been written that also go against the death penalty. Are there contradictions or not?
The Constitution should not be interpreted taking isolated articles if not taken their context. But for the same reason that my colleague Alicia said is that there must be the death penalty. Precisely the function of the state is to protect the human person and the functions. The death penalty is to protect the human person. However, the death penalty has been established as a principle of justice. It is justice that we have to take into consideration. It will be fair, for example, that a criminal releases a person after massacring him and continuing to live peaceful, or serving a short time in prison and then go out and continue killing. The murderer has a process that straight has a defender, he straight goes to cassation, goes to constitutional court. The victim never had the slightest opportunity to defend his life as the offender does now, in whom we put the emphasis on the victim and his family and society, or on the offender. What is against a person is really attacking not only against the dignity of that person, but also against the dignity of all people, and we automatically consider him an unworthy being because he has no respect for the life of the one he is killing, or for his own life because he knows that he is going to be sentenced to death. So we can say that all people are equal, although constitutionally they are in dignity and right they are not with their actions. The murderer placed himself outside the dignity that corresponds. To him is a human, and what does the death penalty? It is to restore that dignity to the human being. The state is organized to protect all other citizens, not to protect the criminal.
Jennifer, your position, please.
I participate in the opposition of my partner Nadia because I am against the death penalty. I think that a society that has struggled for many years under things of the is baking to change its attitude. I believe that we must prioritize dignity, and not because the Constitution says so, but because every human being really has immense dignity. Since the beginning of time, human beings have been created in the image and likeness of God, and that gives them a very high dignity. The fact that human beings make mistakes in a way does not dismerit that dignity. The fact that criminal becomes a criminal does not mean that we comes with which such aggressive words to say that we have to annihilate him. I believe that this must be raised for your dear mean attitude.
I don't think it's to respect hit another if not to argue.
Does it sound like you told the rotten apple for the tree? You have to be careful to do it, but not in such a way that the rest of the tree is not injured. Young careful toes who demand the death penalty often do society no longer a desire for justice, if not a desire for revenge, as the three is certain morally, which then socially, when in complaints that the death penalty is going to be carried out. Alicia, you had many arguments, but if we talk about justice, those who investigate in the field of la reality need that is justice be effect and prompt and that is respond to the social reality that we have to live. Will said Shakespeare a few years ago, earthy power in the closet, being to God, when pity the more state justice, and I believe it a sentence that we must have that kind of attitude.
Um, I think I think that mercy is dangerous when it comes to forgiving murders or kidnappers, and I insist that they must be annihilated. I do not believe that a kidnapper who is tortured is victim is worthy of kills his relatives to tell them that they are close to mutilate some part of his body, that they even mutilate a part of his body and send it to relieve it. I don't think so. That person is worthy. I do not believe that someone would take a victim, for example, a girl, to a desolate place, respect her and then hand her, slit her throat of showcase here. These beings can never have dignity. Those are animals.
Of course they do. I think that all human beings have a dignity and that dignity is not up for discussion. I think that it is not a matter that the Constitution has to recognize today because that constitutions may be different conceivals, may be different tomorrow, but rather it is an elemental that is implicit with the personality because God has conceived us that way. Unfortunately, there are human beings who are outside of certain types of norms that allow adequate social coexistence, and yes, the crime scene is so heartbreaking, so annoying, uh, and so grotesque as the one you propose. But unfortunately, we are having to live it. And when one handles these emotional aspects, it is when one really takes the approach that should be given to this in order to have the necessary lucidity to really know that beyond the criminal act, there is still it that man, a dignity that we have to respect and that, of course, requires a punishment and needs sanction, but not necessarily with the death penalty because for that there is criminal law. The penitentiary systems that they should be promoting more and more.
What punishment and what sanction would you give to a person who does what Alicia gave you an example?
It would definitely have to be a prison sentence. It could be a maximum prison term of 30 for 40 years. In other countries, life imprisonment is established. In other times, the obligations to carry out certain types of actions has been established. That is some ways for man to redirect his wrongdoing.
Criminal law as sanctioning law is a right that really seeks to reply the victim. Criminal law is not created either to deter other criminals or to re-educate offenders of some trends in criminal law affirm. And retributive justice requires that the sanctions is appropriate to the act of murdering, maiming, or violently annihilating a person, whether sentenced to life imprisonment or not. The courts always have systems in place that allow the offender to eventually regain his freedom. Where is the dignity of the victim? We talk about the dignity of the offender, and what about the dignity of the victim? The victim will never be able to see the sunlight. He will never be able to hear an I love you from his loved one. He will never be able to enjoy his children and grandchildren. The offender, if he eventually leaves, has his world open to him. Is that fair? So when does the state pay the death penalty? What the death penalty is done is restoring the dignity of the person. It is not destroying the dignity, but rather it is restoring the dignity of the victim, their relatives, and all human beings throughout society. What the criminal is doing is massacring, crushing the dignity of the person and ceasing to be worthy.